Alright, good evening. Going to do another one of our recurring streams here. This one is the character of the week, which I get from my friend Kyle, from a show that he's watching, at the very least. I've watched a little bit of this one. We're going to be doing a character called Genos from One Punch Man. I might be mispronouncing that, but it's fine. Looks like this. So a lot of things I'm not used to doing here, both mechanical type stuff as well as it's another male, which is not usually my standard. But this should be interesting. Should be fun. So we've also got a very kind of fixed perspective here. So that should also be interesting to try to do correctly. I'm going to start out by trying to sketch this out and get an idea of where everything should go. I'm trying to teach myself to do that more because it's a bad habit that I have, that I kind of just move in on things and kind of don't quite do things as I'm supposed to. And we'll see, hopefully I can get this sized correctly in this kind of sketch first so that we're not running off the page where we're not supposed to be. We'll see. For some reason my reference just went away. Deal with it for now. Alright, we got it back. Oh, and also, since I have so much trouble with hands, I ended up picking a reference that is, half the frame is a hand. So that's going to be a little bit of a challenge as well. Right now, I'm not too worried about things looking correct. We're going to be going back over them anyway, and I'm really just looking for size right now. Kind of a general positioning. This kind of foreshortened perspective is really not one that I'm used to. This looks really weird. um, I think our size is about right. I'm not too sure. I think the safer thing to do is going to be to probably try to take this down in size a little bit so that I don't end up cutting anything off. Because if I work from the center of the hand here outwards, but I find out that I made this way too big, we could end up actually cutting off a good bit of this. So, and I still haven't managed to find among my things a nice large eraser, so I'm still using up pencils in order to erase things. I also don't want to make this too small because I want to have enough space to really get in and show a lot of the details. Now, most of the detail I'm going to be showing is going to be on the hand. That's where all of the intricate details are in this reference. But there are a lot more details to be had in this picture that would be good to convey, and I don't want to make my overall outline too small such that I wouldn't be able to really get those in there. So we went ahead and erased everything that is not that circle in the middle. And what we're going to do is I'm just going to take that circle in the whole way around. And we're going to work from that. Hi, Coach King. Yes, this is from One Punch Man. It's part of a little ongoing thing. One of my friends gives me a character to draw each week from an anime that he is watching. Since the new season just started, he's been going back and picking ones from stuff that he's already seen, and this was the character that he picked. I don't know if my friend is in chat right now. His name is Kyle, I believe. He's a Dubious Notion on Twitch. I know he's been having some internet troubles recently, so may or may not be around. not done Shinichi-kun from Parasite. I also did not get the chance to watch that show, unfortunately. That was around the time that I didn't have a whole lot of chance to watch anime. I'm just recently getting back into drawing, so I don't have a huge backlog of finished work, as it were. So everything we're doing is somewhat of a learning experience. End up getting a little far off here. It should be more straight across. I think it's going to take a couple of tries for me to get the spacing right on all of this. Drawing hands is still something that I struggle with quite a bit, which is what makes this picture a good practice. No worries. I'll keep it in mind. I think I recall having heard good things about it. It's gonna take me a little bit to get back in the habit of watching anime, I think, just because I haven't had the chance to in so long. but I do intend to try to pick up a couple things this season. I'm not entirely sure what yet, but I want to make a little bit of time to watch some stuff. If Parasite is your second favorite anime, what would be your favorite then? Okay. It's true. 24 episodes doesn't really compare to something like Naruto, huh? Yeah, One Punch Man seems to be getting a lot of good attention. It's an interesting story as to how it came about, and from the parts that I did see, it did seem very interesting. I have not actually watched Naruto. I didn't get into anime until later on, so I kind of missed the big three, as it were. Yeah, no, it's a bit odd, certainly. It was not a thing for me at the time, and I never got around to looking into it. I knew it was very popular, like I can recognize things from Naruto, but don't know too much about it. Something definitely is not working out with this. So, well, and stop space. I do have a phone. The problem is not as much with not being around the technology to be able to watch anime, it's the time factor. But I appreciate the suggestion. Like I said, unfortunately, my issue is not necessarily access to the anime, it's just the time to watch it. Yeah, lunch breaks and weekends is pretty much the time that I have now. Though lunch breaks can be a little hectic, and I'm currently a little busy on my weekends, but I'm trying to make time. The stream obviously takes up some time too. I could be watching anime now if I weren't drawing, but the drawing's a little more important to me. I definitely intend to try to get some watching in this upcoming season. By a lot of standards, I suck at drawing too, and I'm certainly better than I was before, but it's all just practice. If you want to be good at drawing, you just need to practice it enough, which is what I'm trying to do here. I mean, in trying to draw this hand alone, we've erased it, I don't know, 4 or 5 times already. I'm sure I'm not going to get away with not having to erase it again. And I certainly have never been better at drawing hands than I am now. It's only from recent practice that I'm getting this level now. From Pennsylvania. So it's 8:19 p.m. here. Well, right now we're just sketching it out to try to make sure that I have it, in the right place on the frame, in the right size, because if I go way into the details, which I've already done more on the hand than I should, but I was having trouble spacing it out. But if I get way into the details and find out that it's wrong, it's a lot worse to have to go back. And since I'm drawing on paper, it can actually be really difficult to go back. Once you draw too much on it, if you draw too dark on it, it doesn't really go away when you erase it. And I can still see things that I erased. Thankfully, they don't show up all that well on camera unless I press down hard enough. So I think that's not bad. So right now my goal is not necessarily to get everything correct and in the right shape. Like, I'm not entirely worried here about the shape of his face. I want to make sure that I have it in the right spot before we do that. Alright. Have good dinner, or whatever meal it happens to be for you. And thank you. Yeah, I'm trying not to be too concerned right now with necessarily getting these details perfect. So we can always go back and improve the details. Right now it's all about the composition. I'm trying to put this entirely too far over. So it should be about here in relation. This is definitely a lot more challenging of a composition than I'm used to. Which is good. It's good to be trying to challenge myself to draw different things here. Which is part of why this works out really well, this character of the week, where I'm given a character to draw, because I then don't get to pick something that's normal for me. I don't get to pick something that's easy, necessarily. And Kyle has been very good about picking things that are definitely not easy for me. So, like I mentioned at the beginning of the stream, I'm not used to drawing males as much. I'm not used to drawing this type of pose. I'm not used to drawing more action-oriented things. And I really don't have a whole lot of experience drawing mechanical limbs either. So, there are a lot of things in this picture that are pretty new to me, pretty difficult, pretty challenging, which is definitely what we want to be doing. So I think if we do that, we have neck come down like this. Because this composition is so different than what I'm used to with this foreshortened perspective, I'm finding it difficult to not... Like, I'm drawing out more details than I kind of would like. I'm trying to do this more as a planning thing. But I'm finding that drawing the different details here is helping me understand where this composition is going. So it's it's more detailed than I'd like to have to erase. But if we end up having to erase it, then that's just how it goes. There you go. And I'm definitely going to be erasing these, but I want to make sure that we're headed in the right direction. So if I can give him a little bit of features. Something kind of like that. I think that works. Maybe like hair here, and then this is going to come out. So that gives our shoulder line something along that line. And we can bring that shoulder down like that, which is in a totally different direction than I drew here. Well, then two of the three lines I drew, one of them is right. But this is what I mean when I said those details that ideally I wouldn't be adding at this stage are helping me determine where this composition is going. You can say, like, if the shirt ends about here, then that shoulder area is something like this. We can kind of work our way down that way. And me needing to do this stems mainly from a lack of skill, a lack of knowledge on how this perspective should actually be drawn. Because ideally I'd be able to start with, like, we'd start with our kind of general form, and I'd be like, oh, well, this is foreshortened, and you have the hand here, and we'd just draw it out that way and then add on to it. But I'm definitely not at that level yet. So I'm breaking it down into smaller sections and going, well, I know there's this circle. And then around that circle, there's another circle-ish shape of stuff. Then the hand builds around that, and these go in this kind of way, and by drawing those smaller shapes, which adds more detail that I wouldn't normally be adding, it's helping me make up for the fact that I don't know how to draw this composition properly. I think this is a good trick if you're like me and you're not highly skilled. It's easier to draw small bits and put them together. The tough part is putting them together properly. You'll end up with things where you're like, well, I really like this hand and I really like this face, but they're not at all related to each other. I'm trying to get better at that, to make it look that like the things that I'm drawing actually go together into one cohesive piece. I'm not yet at the point where I can build it from the ground up as a cohesive piece. We're getting better. Every time I draw something, I learn something new. This is one where I've seen some of this show. I didn't finish the show. I watched it over the holiday break, where I had an additional day off, and I was willing to drop everything else I was doing to spend time with my friends. And we watched some of this at that time. I enjoyed it. So I know a little bit about this character, but not enough about the show where I was like, okay, we're going to draw this character, so I'm going to draw this particular image. So instead, what we did is I went to Google, typed in, Genos, One Punch Man, and I just scrolled through images, and I got an impression of that character through that. I'm like, okay, well, what I'm getting here is that something like this pose is what I should be drawing. Because equally important to the details. So, like, he's got this thing in the center of his hand that shoots fire out of it. He's got the blonde hair, the black eyes with the yellow iris. All of those are important details, and that's going to help inform you as to what character this is. But that character needs to be doing something. Rather, it doesn't have to be. It's easier to recognize that character if that character is doing something that fits. So, if you have a unique enough character, it doesn't matter as much. You can put them doing whatever, and ideally their characteristics are such that they'll still be recognizable, no matter what you have going on. But it doesn't hurt, even in that case, to make sure that your character is doing something that makes sense for that character. That's only going to help. I don't know enough about Genos here to give an example of something that would be out of character for him. But he seems like a very serious type of person. Is kind of what I know. A very good, serious, stoic foil to One Punch Man himself. I think that this composition is going to work. It's not perfect. And, of course, I did not remember to set a timer when I started doing this. Like I talked about last time. So I have no idea how long it's been. So I guess we'll just continue for now. But if you have a character and you make that character do something in character, it makes them easier to recognize, which is important, especially for someone like me, where I'm not going to be able to convey these details perfectly. No matter how long I spend on this, it's not going to be perfect. And that's fine. Because my goal is not perfection. My goal is to draw this such that someone like me who has a passing familiarity with One Punch Man can go look at it and go, oh, that's Genos from One Punch Man. That's the important part. And in a lot of ways, this is a very similar thing to what I get from the other thing that I'm doing, which is going and drawing one character or more. Well, I haven't picked any more yet. I've only done it once. But one character at least from every show that I've watched or every manga that I've read. I haven't yet expanded to video games because I've already basically got enough characters to draw for an entire year or more of streams just from that. Between this and that, there's plenty for me to draw. So I don't need to expand that as of yet. But while both of these programs, projects, whatever you want to call them, give me a variety of characters to draw, a lot of different characteristics to try to convey, and the opportunity to get a lot more in the way of poses and perspectives and that kind of stuff. Because my goal with each of them is to not only just draw the character and show, the details there and convey those characteristics, but to pick something that works for that character. So I actually cleared this with Kyle beforehand because I'm like, you know this show and I don't. But this is what I thought would be the correct thing to draw for this character. And he said, yeah, where he's shooting something, that is definitely what you want to show. I'm like, okay, that was the impression that I got looking around. So when I'm drawing, I want to make sure that I'm picking something that fits for that character. Which is why, when I went to do Senju, I specifically chose the image of her with the various office supplies falling down. Because that image is very much indicative of her character. And it's a very iconic kind of image. Ideally, what I'm drawing every time is the thing that, if I tell you the character, so Genos from One Punch Man, this is the kind of thing you think of. That's what I want to be drawing. So both of these programs give me an opportunity to draw things that I wouldn't normally draw. And get a lot more variety with my characters than I would probably get if I were just drawing random characters for each time. This one specifically, the character of the week, not only is it on a more set schedule, there's one every week to draw. But it's also not up to me. So if I'm looking at the different anime that I've watched, and I look at one and I'm like, well, I don't really think I could draw this character, so we're going to go with this one instead. I have a lot more leeway there to work within my skill set. Genos is totally outside of what I normally draw. And that's good, because the more things that I learn to draw, the more versatile I am. If I were going to pick a character from One Punch Man, I would probably pick One Punch Man, because not only is that the obvious choice, but it's a much simpler character. This is good, though, because I didn't get to go with a simple character. I get to learn a whole lot more. That is our express goal here, is to be learning as we draw. Through the method of making lots and lots of mistakes every single time we draw. But by learning from those mistakes as we do it. And it's going to take me several drawings to get over a lot of these mistakes, and I'm always going to be making mistakes, and we're always going to be learning. So if you're looking at this and you're wondering if you should follow these streams, tune in another time, if you're not personally connected to me in some way and have that incentive, we're going to be doing a lot of learning on this stream. We're going to be doing a lot of exploration. I am not, I believe, a talented artist, but I don't believe that that needs to hold me back. With enough practice, I can become a good artist. And I believe that that's true of the vast majority of people. The important thing is that I continue to draw and continue to try to learn. And I don't think that any artist is past the stage at which they can learn something. You always have the opportunity to learn more. And this doesn't just apply to art. You can always be learning and improving yourself and improving your abilities, even if it's something you're good at. There's always more to know. So it is my intent to continue to learn. And if you'd like to learn along with me and see the way that I learn and see the mistakes that I make so that maybe you can make just a little bit fewer of them yourself, then maybe you check out this stream. But if you're looking to be amazed by high quality art, if you want to see someone with a much better handle on the creative process, go about their craft and learn from them that way, I am probably not the person you should be looking at. Even if there's something that I do better than you, there is somebody that does it better than me that you should be looking at. But if you enjoy seeing the creative process evolve, or if you just enjoy the subject matter and want to stick around, have some background noise or whatever, then this might be the stream for you. So there's your philosophical monologue for this stream. I'm trying to just build my way up the hands here by adding these sections. So robotic finger sections here, which incidentally is a good way to look at the hand. It's like this kind of, sectioned off way of looking at it with the joints in between is a correct and useful way to look at the hand. Learning this can help you understand the way that the hand is put together, which can help you draw the hand in more positions that appear natural. It's illustrating. Sorry. It's illustrating the way that the hand is built. Also, hi. I'm watching a thing. There's a 15-second delay, so you tell me move my hand, and now I finally did. This is where we are so far. I'm still working on it. I think the composition is correct so far. I'm hoping I don't end up having to change it too much. Yeah, I don't know how long you've been here if you got to see that I had to do it about 5 times to get the perspective right, but I do think it's where it needs to be now. I also actually started with the hand, the hand even larger. This circle was probably about out to here on it. So figure another 1/4 inch around in radius. And that was actually really hard. Oh, thank you, Sheila Drago. I'm glad you like it. I'm still learning a lot as we do this. And we are quite far from being done. I actually have a dubious notion in chat is the one who picked our subject matter for tonight. This is a project that I do with him, where he picks an anime character each week, and we attempt to draw it. So far, he's done a really good job, because I've only been doing this with him for 2 weeks. He's done a really good job of picking characters that I have a whole lot of trouble drawing. Which is good. Because I'm trying to get back into drawing and learn. So by taking on different things that I don't know how to draw, that I haven't drawn before, I get to learn a lot more. Thinking about it here, this is a lot different than what I normally do, where normally I'm spending the vast majority of time trying to get details in the expression and on the face correct. Whereas in this case, I have done absolutely nothing on that, and we're focusing entirely on this head, because it was the focal point of the composition. and it is where the vast majority of details in this composition lie. So I want to make sure that I get it right. I do like that Genos basically has the diagram of a hand for a hand. That makes it kind of interesting to draw because I feel like I'm drawing like a plan. Like, okay, well, if I were putting a hand together, this is how it would fit together, but I'm actually just drawing the details right out here. On the previous iteration of this, where we're drawing Yusuke from Yu Yu Hakusho, I mentioned that I wasn't entirely sure that I felt like I had learned a lot or that I had challenged myself enough because I ended up drawing straight from the reference and basically copied it precisely down to all of the areas of shading and all of that. I'm basically doing the same thing here, but I feel that this is sufficiently complicated that I am definitely learning a lot just in trying to do it again. I can already see improvements from other drawings that I've done on stream. So one thing that definitely stands out as better than before is this one actually fits in frame properly so far. Now I admit, I'm very close here. This is still higher than it should be, because if we switch to our reference so you can get a good look at it here, that finger is still in frame. The next one goes off frame, and mine's going to be a little more off frame than it should be. But everything is still fitting in frame, pretty much. At least the things that do. So, definitely improved on that initial planning stage where it's, how big do I need to draw this such that it fits on the page? Which for a more skilled artist is obvious, and for someone at my skill level is something you need to think about. I have to give the artists of One Punch Man credit for being willing to draw so many little tiny pieces of hand parts in what I must guess is somewhat of a frequent fashion. And I'm sure that they can get away with not drawing every little piece of this all of the time. This is evidently one of the most detailed shots of the hand that you're going to get in that show. But there's a lot of little pieces to this. I did like on the picture that you did where he was missing one of his arms, and my first thought was, oh yeah, I remember that. Like, he lost a bunch of parts, and I understand that he gets messed up all the time. And I thought about it, and I'm like, that's a really creative way to only need to draw one hand. Which may or may not have been your intent, but given my difficulty with drawing hands, that's where my mind went. And I'm like, oh man, I wish I had done that. I'd only have to draw one hand. And to be fair, the other hand in this is pretty small. So I really only need to draw one hand at this level of detail. But I do like that as a creative artistic solution. It's like we gave this character so much detail in the hands and arms. Let's just take them off. Then we don't need to draw it. I don't think that's how it went, but it was not the intent, but you appreciated it after you drew the one hand. Yeah, that sounds right. I definitely thought about that, and I'm like, that's really nice because it fits, but it also saves you from drawing. Like, I'm really glad that the other hand in this picture is so much foreshortened in perspective that it's not detailed at all. Plus, at the size that it is, I wouldn't be able to convey those details anyway. Which was kind of a big concern that I had as I decided that I needed to make this smaller, which evidently where we are right now, that was absolutely the right choice. But I had the hand larger, and I'm like, I think this might be too large. I think I'm going to end up taking things off frame that I shouldn't. So let's go back, erase everything, and make it smaller. I'm like, I don't want to make it too small, because if it gets too small, I'm just not going to be able to draw these details. There is a physical limitation there. I think this is where we need to be his size. That needs to come up a little higher. And there are some parts of this composition that I get lucky in. As previously mentioned, my trouble with frames is somewhat alleviated because this goes off frame. So it's fine that this finger runs off the edge of the page because that's true to the reference. So basically I get to blame my problems on the reference rather than my skills. Twitch does not block links in chat, and I am willing to open links that you post. I mean, that's about my level. That's, you know, I could draw that. That seems like if you're just like, hey, draw like this character, I'd be like, yeah, I'm gonna like draw this character. That's about my level. A little better, obviously, you know, as evidenced by what's in front of us, but definitely closer to my level than this actually is. As far as just a creation out of nothing. I can look at this and, you know, draw the lines that are there, and in doing so create a much better composition than the original manga or webcomic. But that's not something that I can do without reference. So there's a big old hand that we're working on. And I'm pretty happy with it. I got lucky, in a sense. I need to fix this part though. This is all messed up. I got somewhat lucky in my unluckiness that I chose composition. I don't know, can I call it unlucky if I chose the composition? Well, I got somewhat lucky that even though this composition has such a large hand in it and is the focal point of the entire composition, that because it's so large in the way that Genos is built, I got to just break it apart into smaller sections and go like, okay, this is how a hand is built. So I didn't have to... Like, if this were just a regular hand, I feel like I would have more trouble drawing it. But because it's made up of so many of these little pieces, I get to just draw a bunch of little pieces, and then it turns into a hand at the end. Now, theoretically, I could take this idea, like, okay, well, if I were to draw all of these little pieces of hand, then I could take this and build hand around it. Ideally, that works. I don't think that that's within my skill level either. But by doing this picture, we are learning more about how a hand works, which is a very important thing if you're drawing hands. If you never intend to draw any hands, then don't really need it. Why are you wasting your time? But since I seem to enjoy drawing people, I need a little practice drawing hands. Okay, there's specifically 8 of these things. Let's get that correct. So if there's specifically 8, I want one to point this way. There are tools that are made for this. Let's use them, shall we? I've run out of tools that are made for this. I need to use other things that are available. Also, I'm doing this wrong, but I remember how these work. I don't. What is this stream turning into where I'm using the proper tools for a job? Well, I suppose it's still pretty characteristic of me in that I'm saying I use the proper tools of a job as I use the... This one's a token. But I use the insert card of a magic pack in order to measure out an angle. But I'm using a protractor, which is specifically designed to measure out angles. So I can make sure that I'm building this little octagonal shape correctly. should have is like another ruler available. But I grabbed this, and I'm like, yeah, this is a ruler, because it is. It's also see-through, which is nice, because I can see what I'm doing. This is a core ally token. It's my art ally, evidently. Oh, bad jokes. Alright, let's move on. So, I want to build in this circle, which needs to be bigger, and this circle. Yes, this circle. We need to build this octagon shape. We want to leave a little bit of space in between these areas. So somewhere halfway in, there's going to be these little guys. Someday I'll have to break down and get an actual like big eraser rather than just grabbing more pencils that that I destroy the erasers on and don't use the pencil part on. Someday, but not today. Today we are still cannibalizing pencils for their erasers. Now, this is a point at which my art has a lot of difficulty. Which is these fine detail, thin line, clear line kind of things. Which this absolutely should be. But I am messy. I am very messy. Which is bad for this kind of thing. It works well if I'm just trying to give an impression of something. The way in which I blur together things works well for hair, for instance. So I don't need to go and draw a bunch of little details. I'll draw the flow of the hair and then work around that and add more lines, and then it all kind of blurs together and blends, and it works out really nicely. But then we get something like this, and really you want to have those lines be very clear. That's where I start to struggle. I am too sketchy. Well, at least I did get 8 pieces with these little lines in between. It's a little messy, but I think it's alright. Now in these, a rectangle shape, that's one of these numbers. That's getting somewhere. I like where that's going. Got some pieces of this hand to move around a little bit to account for this. This move a little bit, and this needs to move a little bit. There we go. Just move those up a little bit so we don't have quite that much blank space in there. Oh, we haven't finished this. I thought I had done that already. There you go. All better. I don't know what you're talking about. It's filled in on that one for some reason. I probably got and filled them in overall. Yeah. I'm deviating slightly from the reference here. We're still drawing these shapes where they are and all of that. Some of them are filled in, and some of them are more square shape, like they're just the outline. But I think that I'd rather have them all filled in, so that it's consistent. I think that's going to end up looking better. We're going to also add these. Again, on the reference, some of them there are two. Some of these joints have two of the little squares. Some of them only have one. And I drew them out that way, and I'm like, you know, that seems kind of silly. They should all have it. Okay, that is a hint. And I now know that I've been streaming for at least an hour? I'm not sure how long. We are going to take a quick 5-minute break, and we'll be back shortly. Alright, and we're back. Was that 5 minutes? I don't know, because I still haven't learned to set a timer. We'll get there one day. Furthermore, I looked at the actual time, like on a clock, since again, no timer, and it occurs to me I don't think we're going to finish this tonight. Which could be good or bad depending on how you look at it. On one hand, it's, I'm going to go with it's probably good. Because A, that means I'm not going to rush through this, because I know I'm not going to finish it tonight. I'm not going to stream for like 4 hours straight, or more, probably more, and just totally lose steam halfway through this and just wreck it. And it means that I'll definitely be doing more streams this week than I might have otherwise, because well, this is a once a week thing, and I'm not about to get behind on it. So, we will be coming back to this on another night, but let's continue working on tonight. I think we'll go for about another half hour. So sometime around 10 o'clock, on the clock on the little bottom right of this, is when we will cut it off. So we're not going to get through it tonight. So far, we have done this hand. Doesn't have all of the shading yet, but it's got the shapes. And I'm actually pretty happy with it. So take a look at our source here. Get a better view there. And so that's what we're trying to kind of get towards. And come back. Yeah, not too bad. I'm pretty alright with that. I'm pretty happy with it. So now we just need to make sure that the rest of this actually goes with that hand. That's the tough part. I think we're off to a good start. I think that this is going to work. We need to make sure we don't get too far away from it. So let's start by trying to draw these different shapes. I think that's too long. Oh, jeez. Alright, so this is good. We'll start here. Got this pink, whatever it is, going on. Not that it's pink on my page, but it's pink in the reference. Move that around like that. Get this guy to come down here. This is going to form the elbow, which I would have no idea how to draw if I didn't have this reference. Pull this in and up here. Occurs to me this probably needs to actually do one of these numbers. Let's do that. That's a little more pointy than I want there. Use that in a little more. There we go. That's better. So pull this up into that. That's our hand up there. This is the arm. And we'll pull this down on here. Again, Genos being an excellent example of the various parts that go into all of these things. If you're trying to draw kind of like a muscular diagram here, this isn't terrible. It's like, how do the different parts of this arm and hand go together? Well, kind of like this. Got all these little robot parts here. Most hands don't have the ability to shoot fire out of them, but if they did, you know, it would be there. So I like this not only as just an interesting character to draw, you know, how exactly does one go about drawing this particular android person, but also just as a good base. Like, oh well, yeah, I remember drawing that hand, and so the parts kind of go like this. You can see all these little parts here, so I like it. It's interesting. I think we've gotten way too far on that. All right. Let's come back on that. As we're going through this, I get to go back in and erase all of these little sketch lines that I did, many of which we are not following. Which, I mean, by default, many of which we're not following. I drew this color 3 times. Only one of them might be correct. It's always a little worrisome whenever I sketch out the area that we're going to draw in, and then as we're going, I end up kind of just straying from it and never getting back to it. We're trying to improve on that. Ideally, I'd like to be able to make composition that I actually follow. And I think that we're getting better at that. That's an area in which I am improving, even if I still struggle with it a bit. So right in here. This shape. There we go. Nice little shoulder joint thing going on there. Now that I'm thinking about it, both of the Character of the Week ones that I've done have involved me drawing somebody with... Oh. That didn't go where it's supposed to. I interrupted my own thought there. Both of the Character of the Week drawings that I've done have actually had a hand in the foreground as a centerpiece of the composition. So that's a little interesting. So I run into a little bit of a problem with my composition, which is that something's off in where it's lying. So if I were to follow this line down and continue the shirt along this way, the collar ends up kind of here-ish, which is where I've got the face planned out. Now, it's possible this is just wrong. But I think that if I continue on with this size, I end up losing a lot. Like the other shoulder might end up off the frame. This hand might end up off the frame. So I need to figure out where exactly we're going. We've got a couple things that we can use as guidelines here. So I'll show you the original source here for a second. So there's a couple places in which we can kind of look at. We've got these areas where certain pieces meet. If we're lined up there, then we're on a good track. If we're not, then, well, we need to reconsider some stuff. So, looking at our picture compared to the source, the shirt should line up right around here, where that part of the thumb is. And right now, it's not there. So these need to be pulled in somewhat, which is good in a way, because that means that this idea of our composition isn't too far off. This is the danger of getting too detailed without a good plan. Because at this point, I've put, 2.5 hours into this hand, pretty much. And that's, if I erase it, then we're starting over, which might happen. We might have to start over. Obviously, if we start over, this isn't getting erased, because at this point, I wouldn't be able to get it off the page well enough. You could still see those parts too. Which, even if I try to erase them the whole way, they're still going to be there. Now, as I draw, they're light enough that they'll get covered. So I'm not too worried about it. But the further back that we have to go, the more you might be able to see in the finished composition. And the more times that I have to go back and erase things, the more it shows up. So that's why way back at the beginning of this I was saying, I'd like to sketch this out as best as I can, and we want to try to follow it as best as we can. Because when we don't, we run into problems. So I'm going to try this a little differently this time. We're going to be working from the thumb out and around. This might offer us a better guide as to how large each of these shapes should be, and prevent us from overextending into the area of the shirt. Hopefully it'll get us a little closer onto plan as far as our drawing goes. think that's working out better for us. Of course, there's danger in this method as well, in that we are taking it as true that this hand is the correct size. The proportions are correct. Now, I think they're good. But if our thumb is off and we're using that as a guide, then the rest of it's off too. So, a little bit of risk there. But I think it's what we have to do to get this picture to work together. Right now these all look the same, which is a little troublesome. Let's add some detail to differentiate them right now. So we want to make sure we know this one is where that shoulder piece is. Should be about the size. Something like that. We've got ice right here. Maybe not there. So shoulder. And like we know, this is that solid color pink. So we can shade that a little bit. Okay. So that's a little better. Helps us figure out where things are a little better. This to be about. So now at least our arm is lined up with our hand better than it was. I think we might still be off with the face. And I think it actually might be. I think this doesn't go out far enough. When I tell you that my work is messy, I haven't actually done any shading into anything other than the dark parts of this hand. So the fact that like all of that had shade to it is just me being messy. So now color goes into these numbers. Plus, not quite. Just erase that. enlarge that area a little bit. It's definitely not the way that I normally do this, to go from the collar into the head and the face. Usually the other way around. But interesting compositions lead to interesting circumstances, mainly because I can't draw them all that well, and so we end up doing weird things. Like drawing the hands before the face. And, in this case, didn't even get the other one down here yet. There's some hair interference here, but this would go like this. This meets the neck. Something like that. Here. This collar's gonna go like this. Hello, Autry. How are you? Thank you. I don't think I'm all that talented yet. Trying to learn a lot here. That's why we're essentially trying to replicate a reference. But thank you. I appreciate that. I'm glad to hear you've been practicing. That's basically what this is too. So I'm just, I'm trying to get back into drawing and trying to learn how to do it again. So, oh, I promise, you can get to my level and beyond it. All you need to do is keep drawing. I'm certainly better now than I ever was, and I intend to be better in the future than I am now. All you need to do is keep drawing and keep trying to learn. I'm glad you like what I'm doing here. I promise there are much more talented artists than me out there. But this stream is definitely a good one to watch if you want to see someone still learning going about it. Because I definitely am learning a lot as we do this. Making a lot of mistakes and trying to learn from them. My skill is not all that high, I promise. And my views are small because I just started this again. I only got back into drawing because I used to draw back when I was younger. I only got back into it in November and I started streaming sometime in December. One day I'd like to have more views, and I'd like to be better at drawing as well. Though the views are kind of secondary to my progress here. glad to hear you like it. I'm trying to stream at least twice a week, maybe more. Depends on what's going on, what my time allows. And I'm definitely learning a lot as we go here, so. I'm not sure exactly what you mean by drawing pads. Do you mean like a sketchbook like this, or more like a tablet, like a digital drawing thing? Tablet. I have done a little bit with the tablet because my very good friend Lauren gifted me one of hers. I'm still very much uncertain with it. I'm used to drawing like this with pencil and paper. There's a lot of advantages of digital, and it helps a lot of my problems, like all of this mess that I'm creating here. But it's something I'm still experimenting with. There will eventually be streams that I do that are digital, but I don't think we're quite there yet. I think that one's right now. Let's try to fix up this one. Not quite. Okay, it's down too far. There we go. That's better. Thank you for asking, Pilot. You may post a link. that's really cool. I'm definitely a lot less used to working in color, which is something that I think I would still probably have some difficulty in transitioning to digital. I'd probably start off just by drawing digitally. So it's really cool to see the different color there. Working as, trying to draw something that's light is really difficult too. So you might think I'm talented, but I don't think that I could have done that as well as you. So right now, we're just skilled at different things. I think that different media is going to be more suited to a person. Not that you can't build enough skill to work in different media. So I don't know a whole lot about painting, but I'm sure that I could learn painting if I tried enough at it. So it might be easier for you to work with the tablet, and that's certainly fine. So long as you like what you create with the tablet and you're enjoying yourself, I think that's really what's important there. So if you find that working digitally using the drawing tablet is more natural for you, then I think it's perfectly fine. I'm excited about the possibilities of working in digital, mainly in a lot of the ways that it can help me deal with a lot of the problems that I have by circumventing them. But unfortunately, you came in towards the end of my stream here because it is getting a little late. I'm definitely going to have to come back to this to finish it in the way that I'd like. So I think I like where this is going. I think we're on a good track to finish this in another stream sometime later this week. Maybe tomorrow, maybe Wednesday. And definitely learning a lot here. It took a long time to get this hand correct, but I really like the way that it's going. So I think this is it for tonight's stream, but I appreciate you joining. Alright, I'm glad to hear that you decided to follow. Like I said, it'll probably be tomorrow night or Wednesday night, about the same time. I don't want this to go on too long since I do at least one character a week, and I'd like to do more. So, thank you for joining me on tonight's stream. Glad you enjoyed it, and I'm hoping to see you again. Have a wonderful night.